All right. Yeah, good point. So yeah, ACM stands for the Association of Machinery. We're two clubs, ACM and ACM-Council on Women in Computing, which we abbreviate as ACM-W. And like, if you look at our Night Connect, we are technically two clubs, but it's basically all the same leadership between the clubs, and we generally operate as one. It's just mostly some document legal filings. But yes, we are originally founded as ACM, I think about 5 years ago now, the year before I got here. So yeah, we are originally ACM and W, and then we also became ACM for paperwork, bureaucratic reasons, but we are a computer technology focused club, special interest in encouraging women in computing because there aren't a lot of us. Last time I checked, it was like 17% of CS and IT students at UCF were female, and it was a little lower for computing engineering, which is not what we wanted, obviously. So for our club, we do a lot of different kinds of events, focus a lot on professional development, like preparing people for internships, because basically anything that's not taught in class, but you kind of still need to know, is something we try and cover. So like you may not expressly get told about internship stuff in class or about GIT or other websites and programs, but we try and fill that need. So speaking of jobs and stuff, we rent SIGACT, which is our special interest group on algorithms and computational theory. My Ashley meets this Wednesday, and they also meet bi-weekly, so every other Wednesday, and they're also going to be meeting virtually, and they are focused on, understanding algorithms and the more mathy side of computing, like if you are taking or have taken CS1 where you're learning all those different kinds of algorithms, big O notation, all those kinds of things are stuff they talk about. So that's a great club to attend if you're interested in learning more about that and just reinforcing your knowledge on those subjects. And then also the spring internship fair is this Wednesday. It's virtual. You need to go to Handshake, which is like UCF's version of LinkedIn, and you log into that with your UCF NID and password, and you can sign up for meetings with different employers and recruiters. We did do a meeting last semester on like preparing for these kinds of events, and the video link to that should still be in our calendar channel, so if you want to go back and take a look at that. But then there's always career services on campus, which is career services is next to like the psychology building and the classroom building one, and you can just go in anytime and ask them for help on resume reviews and stuff like that. And they have other events that you can find on their Handshake page, so I encourage you to check those out. Even if you're like a first year student freshman, like it's totally normal to not have an internship or something your first summer, but it's still a good experience to go and talk to recruiters just to practice and see what's out there. And just that way, practice makes perfect, and your first talk with the recruiter and your first interview probably won't go very well. So if you can get those bad experiences out of the way, then you'll be better off. Then there's also the career fair, which is supposed to be in person on February 1st. And generally, like a lot of the companies there are looking for higher for career and internships. Like it's not necessarily exclusively people who are graduating soon. So you can still go to that if you're interested in acquiring an internship and, dress nice, all that stuff. I think they generally have you bring resumes, but nowadays they might just like take a picture of it or something, but still burn a couple copies. You're printing on campus. Any questions about the job fairs or anything like that before we continue? Okay. So here in 2021, is this going to go sort of in chronological order, but just because all this stuff happened with the big companies, Twitter, Facebook, Amazon, in the news a lot in this very long year. But right in the first week of January, we got Twitter banned Trump and Facebook, actually. So Facebook, the day after the insurrection, they banned him until January 2023. And then they banned him, and then they decided it would be for 2 years. So unless Facebook changes its mind, next year he would be able to use Facebook again. And this was a decision that was held up by the Facebook Oversight Board, which is basically like Facebook's Supreme Court of content moderation, which is staffed by some independent people, like not Facebook cronies and idiots. They're supposed to kind of oversee the decisions on who gets banned, make it impartial. And Twitter permanently banned him, so the risk of incitement to violence. And if you use the internet at all in 2020, you probably saw a lot of his tweets that were spreading COVID misinformation and election misinformation. And Twitter had started adding warning labels, being like, hey, this might not be true, as sort of a middle ground to not outright ban the president, but to appease people who are complaining to Twitter, like if anyone else was doing this, they would be banned. Twitter's view on this was that he's a public figure. If he's going to say bad stuff, people deserve to know that he's saying bad stuff, so that can like factor into their decision making. But which I see the point of, like, I guess it's better to know someone's terrible than to have that be kept a secret. But I'm also very glad to not have to wake up to news alerts about dumb things he tweeted anymore. And then Florida, our wonderful state, passed a law that sought to prevent large social media companies from borrowing political candidates from their platforms, which is basically directly in response to this. And Texas did the same thing, and have enabled the state to fine companies up to like $250,000 a day for banning them until they let them back on. But lawsuits by like industry groups immediately challenged that, because like Twitter is not a public service. You don't have a right to a Twitter account. It's a service, and you agree to their terms of service to use, and if you break those, they should have the right to ban them. And it's also important because there is like a certain amount of content moderation social media companies have to do with respect to like child pornography and obscene material. And if laws stop them from doing that, then they can get in trouble for not doing that as well. So they don't want to end up in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. But and then also beginning of the year, remember the whole GameStop stock craze? Don't ask me to explain why the stocks went nuts, because I've read many things about it and I still don't really understand the stock market. Which I don't think anyone does. I think it's fake. But Robinhood was a finance app, and the big thing about it was to let anyone like trade stocks without paying a fee. So before, a lot of times you wanted to like buy an individual stock, you had to pay like some small fee to the person who handled it. But with Robinhood, you didn't do that. So a lot of ordinary people could trade stocks, and they started doing it because Robinhood had like a real easy to use interface. But then some people on Reddit start buying GameStop stocks, if you will, which, because there's some, like I said, I don't understand the finance part, but basically the app went wild, and then Robinhood stopped people from buying that, which you see as market manipulation, because I mean there was like no real strong legal ground for them to actually stop people from buying that stock. Besides, it was just being wild and pissing some people off. But then Robinhood banning trading of GameStop and some other stocks also pissed everyone off. And I think they launched an investigation to where I don't know if anything came of those investigations because congressional investigations seem to take forever. But, and then also another thing about Robinhood is that this young man in his 20s, the app made him think he lost like hundreds of thousands of dollars. When he didn't, it was just it wasn't clear why. It's because the app showed him he lost money, even though he technically hadn't. It was just like some transactions hadn't gone through or something, but then he killed himself, which then I think his family filed a lawsuit against it because, it's misleading. And the whole thing is just like, if ordinary people are going to get into it, they don't necessarily know what they're doing. And Robinhood has also been criticized for like gamifying the stock market and kind of turning it into like a gambling thing, which like the stock market definitely is. But when you bring it to average people and don't make clear the risks that come with trading stocks, they can get in trouble. And generally just don't spend money in stocks you're not prepared to lose. That's always the rule. Then here's just kind of a fun tidbit. So McAfee, sure we all know McAfee antivirus, but the founder of that died in June. And this guy was like nuts. He allegedly, because he allegedly killed himself. Some people, like his wife, claim he was murdered, but he was imprisoned in Spain for charges of tax evasion because he was a libertarian. He ran as a libertarian presidential candidate in 2016 and 2020. And then in 2013, he might have also killed his neighbor in Belize, which he might have murdered that guy. I don't think he was charged for it, but he was the prime suspect. So yeah, but McAfee was one of the first, or the first, I think, commercial antivirus software. I don't think he was running the company when he died, since he was, kind of on the run from the law for a while. But a fun fact. And then some big tech companies got some new CEOs. So Jeff Bezos stepped down so he could pursue his space dreams. And Andy Jassy, who had led Amazon Web Services and been an employee of the company almost since its founding, took over from Jeff back in July. Amazon Web Services is huge. I don't know exactly what percentage of the web, but a solid chunk. If we're in the years, so half the web ran through Amazon Web Services. And he was the one who built that up and made it what it is today. And then Jack Dorsey, CEO of Twitter, former CEO of Twitter, he resigned November 29th, and Parag Agrawal became CEO. And I thought this was kind of interesting. He was just originally hired as a software engineer in 2011. He was just some guy they hired, and then 10 years later became CEO. Wasn't a part of the founding or anything, just I guess was really good at his job. And I don't know what Jack Dorsey's up to now. I think he sold his first tweet as an NFT, but whatever. I don't know if he's up to anything now, just retiring with his millions, I'm sure. But this was big. So you guys probably heard about it, the Facebook whistleblower leaks. So the Wall Street Journal published internal Facebook documents leaked by a woman named Frances Hagen, but she originally, her identity wasn't known, but then she revealed herself as giving this interview, and she had been a product manager in the Facebook Civic Integrity Department. And she was a technical person. She bounced around between a couple of different companies doing various technical and data engineering work, but she joined Facebook's Civic Integrity Department, that department was founded to try and mitigate manipulation of people regarding the election. Like, in 2016, that was the whole thing about how Russia had like used Facebook to try and sway people. So the Civic Integrity Department was to try and prevent anyone from misusing Facebook, but they actually dissolved the department right after the November 2020 election, which, like, yes, the election was over, but the debate about it was not over in the slightest. But Congress had a bunch of hearings about this in October, and there was a lot of stuff in it, but here are some of the main things that they knew Instagram was bad for teenagers, particularly teenage girls, which, like, duh, yeah, we all kind of knew that, but it shows that Facebook knew that, and they were still going ahead with plans like Instagram Kids, which I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but I think they're still trying to go ahead with it, but it's real sketchy. Facebook's not doing much about the platform being used to cite violence in foreign countries, particularly in like India and Myanmar. A lot of religious violence has been, or religious fervor has been spread throughout Facebook, encouraging violence against different groups by like some Hindu nationalists and Buddhist extremists, which I think we've talked about in prior GBM, but a lot of these posts are in a foreign language, and Facebook doesn't apparently hire many people that actually speak those languages, so they can't even like read the content they're trying to moderate. Just, real bad. Also, a quote from the Facebook files is that after the election, a data scientist mentioned in an internal note that 10% of all US views of political content were posts alleging that the election was fraudulent. So this was like after they dissolved their Civic Integrity Department, and the whole Stop the Steal election was stolen thing went just absolutely nuts on Facebook. And the company knew about it and just like didn't really do much. They also found out that angry posts got more engagement, and the software engineers and data scientists proposed some ways to like change the news feed so it wasn't just posts that made people super angry that got popular. They wanted to try and focus it more on like factual, nuanced things than just outreach porn. But Zuckerberg specifically didn't want that because that might lower engagement, and he likes money. Yeah, a lot of the like criticism of Facebook, I think, comes from the fact that Mark Zuckerberg, he is still like the owner of Facebook. I think he owns 51% of the stock, but he has like a lot more control over policy decisions than I think is normal for a giant company like that. Like, he is the one in charge. He is the one that sets the policy, and these papers will reveal that he knew that some of the things he was doing were bad for children and just the country in general. And he was like, yeah, but money though. And also there's some other stuff like a large exodus from employees because they all realized like, oh, this company we work for is bad and we want to do that. And there have been some like articles by current or former Facebook employees who don't let their own children use Facebook and Instagram because they think it's bad for them. But there's also, they have this program called XCheck or Crosscheck, which was kind of like Facebook's version of Twitter Verified, where like we recognize that you are an important person on this platform. And basically they let people who were verified break more rules than people who were not. So just be like politicians, celebrities, just people of note didn't have to necessarily obey the same rules that us plebes do, and they're just letting them get away with it. You know, if you're gonna apply the rules to anyone, you would think you would want to apply it to like the most popular accounts, but I'm not a billionaire, so what do I know? And then also, Zuck stepped in to help suppress political dissent in Vietnam on behalf of the government, which, I mean, it's not unusual for companies to cave to like autocratic governments so they can keep doing business there. Like, famously, China makes companies obey to their censorship in order to do business in their billion-person market, but it's still not great for his whole like, we're just a company that connects people, and just like, unless they're arguing against the government. And also they have this artificial intelligence that's supposed to catch violations, but it's really bad at it. Like, their AI caught less than 1% of violations of their content, whether that be like hate speech or pornographic content, or human trafficking, because that goes on Facebook. But I guess in that particular regard, I have sympathies, because the people who are like employed to monitor content in these companies have like a really shitty job, because their job is basically to look at posts that have been flagged for violence and pornography and be like, yeah, that's a video of someone getting murdered, I need to take that down. And they spend their whole day looking at these horrible images, and it's people don't last long in that job. I see why they would want to farm it out to AI, also just because of the sheer volume of content on Facebook, but it's really bad at it. And see earlier, they don't have a lot of content moderators in that speak not English, particularly, or like, I think it was Hindi and some other Southeast Asian languages, where Facebook is basically the internet and everyone uses Facebook for everything. Well, they don't have people moderating that content. But, so not a great year for Facebook. Other things, chip shortages. So you guys might have encountered this problem, but there's a huge shortage of computer chips, because like everything is a computer now. Like, cars are computers, toasters are computers, toothbrushes are computers, very simple computers, but there's so many new smart devices and the Internet of Things, there are so many more. There's just such a huge increase in demand for chips. And there's also like general supply chain issues because of COVID that's affected everything else. And also just working from home. Everyone still needs more electronic devices, which is a problem. But particularly, still no one can get a PS5. Still, even though it came out like a year ago at least, we're still having problems getting a hold of them because they just can't make enough. And it's not like a simple thing to just make computer chips. It costs like billions of dollars to build the factories where they do it, and it's a lot of specialized skills. And most of them get built. China builds the most, followed by the US actually. But it takes a while to ramp up supply of that, and it's gonna be a while longer where things even out, which hopefully they do. There's a lot of like rare metals used in electronics that be hard to get, but for now anyway. Also some managers. If you guys remember back in December, it was like right the week of exams, AWS was having problems, which you couldn't log on to web courses. If you were already on web courses, you could use it. The problem was just like the process of logging on got routed through some AWS thing. So if you were logged off, then you were kind of screwed. I think it only lasted a day or two, but yeah, it was like either the week before the week of exams. And it kind of highlighted how like this one service can post so much web traffic that like it's a pressure point, and redundancy is of course built into the internet and technology in a lot of ways, but apparently it wasn't enough. And there's also a Facebook outage in October, the same time as all that leak stuff was going on. It was unconnected to the leaks. It was just October was a bad month for Facebook. And like a lot of business in developing countries is conducted, I know words, over Facebook, like Facebook Marketplace, WhatsApp, just also on my Facebook is used for like all of business transactions in places. So Facebook going out means they can't open their business, and that affects a lot of people's livelihoods. So another example of redundancies, just redundancies all the way down. Also on the NFTs, NFTs became a super big thing this year for some reason. NFT stands for non-fungible token, and that phrase like became an official word in the dictionary. Currently, like $3.4 billion worth of sales in August of what are basically receipts for digital items. Don't ask me why it's popular. It's all hype. And then big brands are starting to get into it, like apparently McDonald's made an NFT about the McRib. For the McRib's 40th anniversary. So yeah, the whole economy is NFT economy is mostly based around like hype. Like Supreme was a big thing based around just hype. It's not really intrinsically valuable. Not that most things are intrinsically valuable, but this is even more worthless than most fake, expensive things. And Twitter started doing that new feature where it's like your profile picture becomes like a hexagon if you use an NFT in it. It's all about clout and hype, but the technology behind it, blockchain, is interesting. We go into the metaverse. So at the end of October, at the end of their bad month, Facebook changed their name to Meta. I'm sure we're all aware. They wanted to highlight their new focus on the metaverse, which Duck seems to think will be like a kind of Ready Player One kind of virtual world. I don't know if you guys read that movie, read that book, or seen that movie. But yeah, he wants to focus the company on building out that kind of virtual and augmented reality technology, which I mean, it would be cool to have it be even like remotely what it's like in the movies, but it's probably going to be a ways off yet, but they're investing a lot of money into research and development for it. And whether the name change was also because of the bad press, I don't think so, because it wouldn't have really helped much. We also know who they are, but the social media app is first still called Facebook. It's just the overall company name, and their stock ticker changed to Metaverse, or just Meta. And then this happened in December, which was a huge thing in the cybersecurity world. So there's this utility called Log4j. It's a Java utility made by Apache, which is just a company kind of like Oracle. They make different software services and languages, but it's used for like logging incidents and configuring files. It's like it's something that a lot of people would include in their projects without really thinking about it. It's just like some and those things where you don't want to write your own logger, so you go find one and just import it and use it without a second thought. But this one had a huge vulnerability that enabled remote code execution, or RCE, you might say abbreviated, but where if you could, I guess, insert some code into the logger, which will then execute on your target's machine, which is obviously a super big vulnerability, 10 out of 10 on the cyber threat scale. But the world found out about it on December 10th. There were, I don't know how well known it was before it was made public, but there were botnets exploiting it. They found evidence of bots doing that in some honeypot servers Apache ran, which honeypot servers like kind of a trap where it's like, hey, look at this super cool server that has all these interesting documents. Wouldn't you like to come hack it? And then it's like, trick you. We're learning everything you're doing by trying to hack this server. We're watching. We know what you're up to. I think honeypot is just a way to like get attackers to focus on one particular place so you can study them and see what they're doing and maybe distract them from the real juicy stuff. But Minecraft, actually, the video game is one of the first software that had to push an update to fix it, which, if you think about how many people use Minecraft, is a staggering amount. And basically, you just had to update the log4j to version 2.15 because it wasn't every version that had this flaw. It was versions like 2 to 2.14. And then they like removed that feature. Like, I guess they know explicitly that could be exploited, but it's just like they didn't need it, and having your software do as few things as you need it to is always a good practice, because if you have extra random crap in there that's not really needed, people can exploit it. But also, daily reminder to always update software, because a lot of people, generally not specifically about this log4j thing, but a lot of computers get hacked because people don't update their software or their operating system, and you just keep hitting remind me later, I'll update later. But sometimes those software updates include bug fixes and patches to stop people from hacking you. So you do need to do those. And then that was all I really had for the year in 2021. It's a lot of kind of more, yes, social political stuff and technical, but especially with someone of us going to work at companies like Facebook, Twitter, Amazon, I do feel it's important to like know what's going on. And it's a lot of like antitrust investigations been launching recently into those companies and whether or not they have monopolies. Again, congressional investigations take forever, so we'll see. But regulations affect every industry, and they've just been slower to hit technology because it changes so fast. And that's, I think, the big stuff that happened in 2021. So any other events I missed out on that you guys thought were cool or weird or important? The next meeting, I'm working on either getting someone from the STAR lab to come talk to us, the social technical interaction research lab to come talk to us about the work they do, or we might be doing a hack the box thing where we all do the first couple puzzles or boxes together. If you guys ever have any other requests or ideas, feel free to either message me or the officers directly, or just post it in the general chat. We're always looking to see what people are interested in. And unless you guys have any other questions, we'll Okay, so yeah, we don't have a projects director, which is I think we had a position open last year when we ran, but no one was interested in it, which is why I haven't had one. I know Night Hacks does projects. I don't know if they're running projects this semester, but if you are interested in finding people to do projects with, you can help you recruit that. Like we can, oh yeah, we do have a Discord server. I think it's still, I think that still links to us being accepted into your Discord. But yeah, about projects, so if people interested in it, we can work to collect you guys and help form your own team with some ideas. Just check and see if Night Hacks is doing projects this semester. I don't remember if they did last semester. And we just haven't had like anyone to be a director for projects. But if that's something you're interested in and want to do that, then message me and we'll talk about it. Let me check and make sure that works. Stop the share. Yeah, it still goes to our Discord. Cool. All right. Yeah, it's not like a huge role. It's just like our last projects director was Dustin. Dustin? I think I'm pretty sure it was Dustin, but yeah, yeah, message me about it. We'll talk. We'll see if people are interested in doing that. I'm trying to match up like skills and interest areas. Yeah, hope everyone's had a good first 2 weeks at school. And go to the internship fair.